Today, from WKYC studios in Cleveland, Ohio.
I wanted to do one with maybe a younger generation. I know my demographics surprisingly is between 18 and 54, and that's because a lot of people have they're digitally trained or got a lot of experience in that, and the older people not so. We have issues there with the fact that a lot of people who have Parkinson's are kind of at an older age, but still you got the younger people who experience that either with friends or family, and so I always like to bring those into the loop. We try to do this as being educational and entertaining, and just this part that is motivational and maybe bringing some energy on the younger level. But the idea there is that when I started doing this, I wanted to work on my speak with intent speak, and so I'll drink water here every once in a while. It's okay. So I wanted to kind of make that introduction, and also I had this little video. It's not
Okay, I have to say that the barking dog became an issue. Christy and Sandy, and of course Christy is expected to be here, and she left. And so I had the dog in the room with us for a little bit, and then later on, put him outside. Probably should have put him in Christy's room and shut the door, but I thought he would settle down. But you'll hear him in the background. But I think that some of that's a thing that you deal with. And again, I'm talking about speaking with intent and also cognitive thinking. The show must go on, and it was kind of funny dealing with that with Annabelle and how we handled that. So I left some of that in there, but I did try to edit some of it out. But you'll see that some things I just had to replace, like the following video.
Entering with their masks, some without. It's clearly still a change that parents and students are adjusting to. Tonight, park rangers are gearing up for rattlesnake season, and now both hikers and vets are on high alert.
And if you look, there are people here at the beach today, but they are not in the water. The National Weather Service issued a beach hazard statement this morning that remains in effect until tonight. I'm here in Studio City at the home of former Jeopardy host Alex Trebek. If you look behind me, there's a line of people that are
you heard in the background her song. She didn't really pay much attention to that till later, but it was fun at the moment.
Gearing up for quite the event. I spoke with other local restaurants to see what they're offering for this year's Super Bowl.
Those who are involved in ministry are doing what they can to avoid burnout, whether that's taking quiet time alone in places like this or reaching out to friends for support.
Thank you. Reporters here at 3 News. Here are 3 things about me in 30 seconds. I come here from Colorado Springs, but I was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas. I love covering breaking news. I think it's so important to be there on the ground and get that information up to date for everyone at home. I love coffee. I love going to different local coffee shops. I love hiking, and I also love music, playing the piano and writing songs.
Behind that steering wheel, I let it all go. The chains that were so binding, oh, they loosened their hold. With every tear that fell, the pain I had been holding was let go in my car.
I love covering breaking news. I think it's so important to be there on the ground and get that information up to date for everyone at home. I love coffee. I love going to different local coffee shops. I love hiking, and I also love music, playing the piano and writing songs.
That's funny.
you got a resemblance to someone, and Have you ever realized that?
Who do you think?
Well, I think it's Billie
Eilish?
Eilish, yeah.
Oh, I love her. Beautiful voice.
Well, I thought that's, I thought when I listened to the song, I said, boy, that you have got that. And I don't know, how much you even thought about it or anybody else has said that, but I kind of like music and I kind of like listening to shows and shows like that. But interesting, when I heard that, and I was kind of surprised. Yeah, that was one of the things I picked up on. Do you do much of that now, or
Much singing?
Yeah, or just.
I do some. I feel like I don't have as much time on my hands as I did. I wrote a lot of songs in college when I would be on different breaks.
Okay.
But as a working professional, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't write as much music.
Yeah.
I still write a little bit.
Well, when you kind of look around this room, you might see somebody you know, but he's pretty good about self-promoting, and then also he does it at a level that it doesn't offend. I mean, I'm kind of maybe a little bit of an overkill, and that's just the way it's kind of developed. But he does a perfect job of that, and I'm thinking about yourself. Do you think you're kind of maybe an underperformer as far as promoting, or do you think that's just something you enjoy? And I'm kind of getting back to singing right now. Mm-hmm. Is that something, as you've gone through that, is it been anything that you've kind of thought about or considered, or I don't know if you've been on any of the shows as far as any of the, you think of the Voice, or you think about some of the others. Have you ever thought about any of that, or you just kind of left it at where you were? You were out in California, and
yeah, I've considered in the past pursuing music more professionally, but what I've always come back to and struggled with is I'm passionate about music, but I'm passionate about a lot of other things too.
Okay.
And I've wanted to pursue other things instead of music. But I've considered releasing more music because, of course, there's the songs that I write on my own and I just have them kind of in a voice memo format on my phone. And then there's the songs like you incorporated in that video that I've actually professionally recorded and released.
Where did you record that? Where was that?
At a studio in Austin, Arkansas.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it's actually not there anymore. It looks like he closed it down, but it was called Blue Chair Studios. Okay. And so I would go there, and his name was Darian. He would help with all the recording and recording the instruments separately from the vocals and then combining them all together.
Well, I remember some of the things that I'd seen on early recordings, and I was just a little bit blown away when I heard your later recordings, and when I don't listen to Billie Eilish much, but I went over there and listened to some of them, and that style and the way you present, I mean, there's definitely a market there. I don't know, she travels all over the world, I guess, and so she's kind of but it's, it's just kind of a side thing that I picked up on, and I was kind of curious because I knew something about that, but I wanted to kind of go back to I always like to go back to the history, and some of that's the beginning, and I know you were, I guess you were born here in Little Rock, right?
Mm-hmm. I was.
Okay, and of course I know the parents, and I've attended Chenal, so I know quite a bit about the family, and my family's got grandkids that are connected there, and that's why I can relate in some ways to the age and the interest, but I was thinking back to myself. My name was like Joe Herbert Lair, and that was kind of unusual. And then there's a lot of derivatives from that, from being Herb to Herbie to. I was laughing about a promotion that was out there a few years ago that was Who's Herb, and that was by Burger King, and it was $40 million blunder.
At this time, Burger King begins a nationwide search for one man. His name is Herb. We don't know much about Herb, only what his friends tell us.
Herb was unusual. Herb was different.
What his parents tell us.
Herb was never what you'd call
normal. his former teacher.
You had to know how to talk to him. Herbert, pay attention.
This is the best picture of Herb we have. We do know Herb is the one man who's never tasted a Burger King burger.
He's like, oh, that doesn't sound good. But your name's a little unusual. I mean, how did that come about? I really hadn't asked JJ or Jill, but how do you end up with Annabelle?
I wish there was a really cool story, but from what I've learned from my mom and dad, they looked through a name book for girls, and they liked Annabelle. And the meaning of Annabelle is beauty and grace.
Okay.
And so I like it as well. It feels like a very Southern name.
Yeah, I just it's almost like two names or something. You see that a lot too, and of course that happens a lot in that way. But I was kind of curious about that because even professionally, sometimes people put pressure to reduce it or say, is this Ann Childers, a news person versus. I mean, I don't have a problem, but you sense that in entertainment and everything else that somebody comes along and says, well, this might work better for you, but it's a beautiful name and it's something I can remember. But I was wondering about that. Now, did you go to Little Rock Christian when you?
I did from kindergarten to 6th grade.
Oh, 6th grade. Okay.
And then I switched to Joe T. Robinson for middle school and high school.
Oh, that's good. My granddaughter was Joe T.
Yeah.
And she kind of did the same thing. Maybe there was a commonality there, but she liked sports. What were your interest in school as far as what did you like to do? Or
well, in middle school, I tried a lot of sports. So I played basketball and volleyball, and I ran track. But I didn't take those out of middle school. But in high school, I played soccer.
Okay.
And I know Sophie plays soccer.
Yeah, and you probably liked soccer too. But
it was fun.
It was fun to go see. I can remember those games, and it's really, it's a good sport. And again, everybody's involved. And I played basketball. You are on offense, defense, and you're kind of running back and forth all the time. So I can identify with that part of it. I never did play soccer, but it wasn't at all popular back when I was in school. Did your dad or mom ever play soccer? Or they?
No.
Okay.
They didn't. I know that my mom played basketball.
Okay.
And I don't know if my dad played. I think he did track.
Okay.
But no one played soccer.
He's kind of fiddled around with golf and different things. So I know he's been out there doing a few things. But and so were there anything particular that you enjoyed doing, or did you go to maybe theater or any events that you can remember in high school that you thought you had to be there, or any of the real, we've had this Taylor Swift thing. I don't know who had been popular at that time, but was there anybody that you remember that you thought you had to go see, or any of those events? I'm curious what.
Yeah. I never saw Taylor Swift. I've never seen her in concert, but she was a big deal when I was in high school, just because her career has spanned a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. I think what I was very involved in high school was student government. So at first I was a representative, and then I held a different position. I want to say maybe it was a treasurer position, and then I was student government president. And so it was super fun to put on pep rallies and plan school dances and spirit weeks. So I was very active in student life, school events. In terms of my interests, I have taken piano lessons, or I took piano lessons from about 9 to 18. And then throughout that process, that's when I started to learn more of piano accompaniment to songs, and I started writing songs in high school. And so that's a lot of what I would do outside of classes.
Well, I was kind of curious about that because I knew you were involved in that early on, and you were doing that for basically all your life. So you can tell that in how you handle yourself, and it brings a lot of skills on. Now, when you got through at Joe T, and how did you get relocated to Pepperdine in Malibu? And that's a different lifestyle from from here.
It sure is.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I mean the Arkansas to California transition. I grew up in the Church of Christ, and so growing up, I always heard about the Church of Christ schools like Harding University, Lipscomb University, Abilene Christian University in Texas, and I also vaguely heard about Pepperdine. So when I was looking for colleges I might be interested in, I knew that I would probably need to go to a summer camp or something at that college to kind of get a feel for it. So I went to a leadership camp at Pepperdine called Crossways, and that was the summer right before my senior year of high school. And so I made a lot of friends. I went to California for the first time, and throughout my senior year of high school, I wavered in between Pepperdine or Harding University, but ultimately I just felt like Pepperdine would be the right fit for me, and it would also be an adventure and something to do on my own.
Yeah, and once you got there, culturally, I mean, any of the big surprises or anything that maybe wasn't a surprise, how did you adjust, or what did you see that maybe you hadn't experienced by living in Little Rock?
Yeah. Well, my closest friends from Pepperdine were from all over. Okay. And so I think that was a really unique experience because growing up, all my friends were from Arkansas. Sure. We all grew up there. And so I interacted with a lot more diverse people culturally. So growing up, I didn't really have any Asian friends. And then when I went to California, there's a large Asian population. And so it was really cool to get to make friends who grew up with different cultures and environments, and also to experience the cultural hubs around LA, like to go to Asia Town and also try out the Mexican food and get to experience that with people and learn about them. And so culturally, I just feel like my worldview expanded a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a trip out to California. I looked it up, and I think Craig was 14 at the time, and he got out there, and we took him out to the market there, and the Mexican food didn't look like what he expected. It was green, some of it green, just different things. So it was pretty eye-opening for us to go out there, and then when we got to college, myself and Sandy, we live in Washington D.C., and that's a little bit what you're saying, is all the diversity of people, kind of a melting pot of people, and wherever you went and whatever you did, you were having to adjust and kind of do those things. So that was important, but it gives you a lot broader view, and I can see, where and what you adjusted to and what you've done as far as a TV and television reporter, but. As far as your experience out there, anything that you remember that kind of sticks out as far as college, or any events or anything that you saw or experienced with that you want to talk about or not talk about?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. So my freshman year of college in November, so I'd only been at Pepperdine for a few months, I went to a college line dancing night at a country bar and grill that was about 25 minutes from Pepperdine's campus. And it was a popular spot. I knew that people had gone to it from campus. And the night that we went, a tragedy unfolded. A shooter came into the building and killed 12 people. And so that was obviously very scary and something that I really had to process and wrestle through. And then kind of right after that mass shooting happened, a bunch of fires came, a wildfire came into the Malibu area. And so that was something that was panicking to that community in a different way. So all of those experiences so early into my college experience, I think, made me very seriously think about how I viewed life and the world. And luckily I had really strong friends to work through that with, but it's not necessarily what you expect when you go to college to experience.
And everybody kind of heard something about it, and so I'm glad you explained it. But the thing you're part of the news versus reporting the news, and that's a little different experience too, because you can probably relate to people that have been in a similar situation, or you see something and you understand that there's a little more to it than just the physical things. It can be a very challenging meal time, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, because we get into depression, anxiety, and even delusional thinking, and some of that comes about. We talk about Parkinson's, but it's, about everybody, and you'll see suicides that they'll have, they'll have depression or anxiety, and some of those are created by some event or something that they're involved in. So that was one thing. I kind of want you to say what you want to say about it, but I remember some of it, but I don't remember the details. But I said, boy, that would be kind of a situation as you get out there, and I'm sure parents and family and everybody else was the same boat. They didn't know, and was it soon after you were able to get away from that situation? I mean, I don't know how you got out of the situation to start with if you were in there, because 12 people getting killed. I guess I didn't realize there's that many.
Yeah, a lot of people. The bar was divided into two spaces, kind of two rooms, and one of the rooms was the bar and pool tables, and then the other room was the dance floor. I was on the dance floor. The shooter went left into the bar, and so that enabled those of us who were in the other area an opportunity to get out. So people threw bar stools into the window to clear those as exits, and I jumped out of one of those windows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's how I physically got out of the building, and then I hid in my car in the parking lot for nearly an hour before I was sure that it was safe to come out.
You have a cell phone with you, or no?
I did, and so immediately all of my friends we all came together. We were texting in the group chat, "Are you safe? Are you safe?" And so very quickly I knew that everyone I came with and knew was safe. But there was a Pepperdine student who I did not know, but she was killed at the bar.
So I don't know if you want to say more about Pepperdine, but I was going to move on to, after you graduated, I'm sure you were looking at job opportunities, and how did you get into, the TV, obviously reporting field? I know you had some experience there. I mean, I think some of those clips were ones you did when you were out in. So you were doing some of those as a student, I guess.
Yeah, those were as a student. So we had an on-campus television show where I got some of that experience. And I went back and forth in college of what I actually wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do reporting, and then I considered law school, and then I thought I might want to write for a newspaper. And so it was pretty late in the game that I really decided to do broadcast. But I did probably in my last semester of college. I finally decided, okay, we're going to do this. And so the way that it works is that video you showed is the reel that I put together with all my highlight clips that I'd done in college. You put that on YouTube, and then you apply to jobs, and then hiring managers are also looking through those videos to find you. And so Colorado Springs saw my video on YouTube, and they emailed me asking me if I would apply for the reporting job at their station.
Okay. And what's the steps of applying at that point? After they see your video, do you have to do something with Zoom, or do you have to go there and do something to demonstrate that you have the skills that they want, or what is that process?
Yeah. So in Colorado Springs, first I had a 50-minute phone call with who later became my boss. And so that was basically, she was asking me questions, getting to know me. I had the opportunity to ask her questions. The next interview was a video Zoom interview with all of the managers. So that was about 6 people. And then I had a breaking news test. And I was sent an email from this person who became my boss, and it had a scenario with facts in it and facts about a fake breaking news situation. Okay. And so I had 30 minutes after I received that email to record myself doing kind of a fake broadcast clip and then send it to her. And that was her way of seeing, can she do this quickly? Does she know how to put together a script on the fly? How does she react under pressure? And so that was a phase of the interview. That was the last phase, and then I was offered the job.
So I've had to talk to veteran news people, even Craig O'Neill, who transitioned to Channel 11, and then, you know, standard news after being kind of a comedian, or at least a totally different person, you know. But he did adapt to some things like, I don't know, with the reading program and working with youth. And I think he built some relationships here with the parents and the kids and everything. And it kind of gave him a little more thing. And then Dave Woodman, who's been around for years, and he admits that I guess he's around 90, somewhere there, but he's very active, and he lives in this community. And I see him quite often. Both of those people did podcasts, and I did kind of a takeoff on Ron Burgundy when I was doing Dave Woodman, and he didn't really appreciate it. It was kind of funny in a way, because, you know, he came back later on and wanted to put a mustache on and do some things as far as we were doing. But you could tell the legitimacy and what he did and how he handled it. You know, you could see you wasn't going to go far with him. Now, Craig O'Neill, you probably played around with him, but I was wondering, you know, you're coming in at a little bit later stage, and do you still see a Ron Burgundy type when you're in the news business, or is that something you observe? I mean, you know, it's a little bit like racism, or just a lot of things you see around it. I can talk about it. I'm not in your situation, so I'm kind of curious what your take is, because you probably got one of the more fresher looks at that coming into the business. So what are your thoughts about the type of people and some of the older type people that's in the business that maybe they're transitioning out, maybe not. So.
Yeah, well, I have to be honest with you. I have never seen Anchorman.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't. It's on my to-do list because everyone brings up Ron Burgundy to me. And I know his thing is that he reads verbatim what's on the prompter, even if it's incorrect. Correct?
Well,
that's like one of the things.
Yeah, and there's a female that's coming in that's going to be a co-anchor.
Okay.
And that's a real challenge. And that's why I think it's kind of important. I mean, you can watch it whenever, but it's an older movie, but it does give that impact of the stage. I mean, you know, it's kind of like going back to the 60s and talk about, you know, you start to have to go back and look at some of those situations to realize that was a pretty big transition in how these announcers had really, you know, they had to put themselves up on a stool or to a point where they were just, they were thinking everybody, well, the world rotated around them and whatever they said. And it's a funny part. And again, I like some of the actors in it, so I can go back and watch it. But I thought that was funny. But I guess what I'm really getting to, and I saw this when I was doing cable software, is, you know, you saw a lot of the old ways of doing news, and I'm talking about newspapers, and I'm talking about broadcast TV that had to transition more to maybe social media or doing pop star or doing a lot of different things. I mean, I can turn on even some of the locals here, and I'll see a lot of infomercials, and I'll see a lot of just things that I could go to YouTube and see and not catch me as far as keep me on there, other than they really hit the weather hard, and that they know that's going to be something that keeps, you know, they'll keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
So is that something? And you could start in Colorado Springs, and we'll transition to Cleveland. But do you see that out there, or did you see stories that were just kind of local? But did you have to do a lot of fillers or do things that were public interest, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah. So I'll answer both your questions. I'll start with talking about kind of personalities. I think you hear those stories about high pressure work environments, and that can be a little bit scary going in. Luckily, I have worked in 2 newsrooms with very, very kind, encouraging people. every newsroom is different from what I've heard, and I think some people face challenges, but I have been lucky to be in very good working environments. I will say in Colorado Springs, you're in a smaller city, and so sometimes some of the pressure comes from you have to have a story every day, even if you feel like something big isn't happening that day. And so those days you're kind of digging through data and maybe doing a story on a report that came out about a school. Whereas other days you would be doing a breaking news story about a crime that had taken place. And so every day was kind of different there. Cleveland, it's a bigger city, so there's lots to talk about. It feels like there's always some story that needs to be covered. In Cleveland, we have some really, really impressive anchors, and they've worked for networks like CBS News, CNN, ESPN, and so it's cool to know they have a lot of experience at the top of the top, but they're still incredibly kind and willing to mentor people who are earlier into their career. So I haven't experienced tension in those spaces or these feelings like I don't belong. I feel like people are pretty good about welcoming me in. And then as far as the transition to social media, there are a lot of conversations within news about how do we adapt and create more content for streaming platforms and reach people on social media, because we know the younger generation is on social media. And so those are still conversations we're actively having. And you'll see these local TV stations do have Instagram pages that they're working hard to post and keep active so that they're tackling what's on the TV as well as what's on people's phones.
I would assume there's a little bit of an issue, and I've been in financial services as well as being a freewheeling entrepreneur, that there would be some, I guess expectations of what you do on your own, so that you don't get yourself in trouble or get somebody else in trouble because you're out there saying something. I see this occasionally even on Twitter or something, or X, whatever. Somebody say, "This is my opinion," and they'll be working for a big organization. But do you get any of that conversation, or is that part of the way that or do you just understand that's going to be part of your life when you go into those situations, that you handle it in a certain way, or not be less public about something that you might be if you weren't working in a news organization?
Yeah, we learned in journalism school, like in college, that it's very important what you post or what you don't post, the importance of being unbiased. There are very fascinating conversations. I know around the election, the general election, my station WKYC told us, don't even repost content from a station that is not ours. So even if you see a news story on ABC or NBC, or they were like, just don't do that, because even if there's some slant or just leaning, that might make the viewers feel like you're not impartial, you're not unbiased, and we want the viewers to know they can trust us. And so trust is the most important thing, and that's a big emphasis in what we post and what we shouldn't post.
I think as far as a bigger station or bigger market, they might be less advertising pressure than they would be in a smaller market. I'm just saying that from an observation of living in a small town, and you could sense that the big company in town might not be happy with something, and they would have a lot of impact, where you can be in Cleveland and you got such a diversity that may not have the impact. And I'm saying that in a way makes it better. I mean, it's not as hard to be impacted by advertisers either, because I'm sure, you see it where people try to put pressure on advertisers, even on just the entertainment that some television station has or something. So there are people out there that think they can control content or control, what the views are. So, and I know that when you get into something as tricky as the political elections, and it really gets tough. So I didn't know how that impacted there. I know that the station here, gets referenced a lot by Al Roker, because he was a weatherman for a while there. And is that I think I saw where he was there 3 years ago, so I guess hadn't been there recently, maybe yet. But is that name something you hear about, or is that something?
About Al?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't seen Al yet, but apparently his sister still lives in a suburb of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And so he comes back to see her, and then he's very kind to, I think sometimes he'll do weather reports that he's filming them in New York, but
yeah,
he's talking about Cleveland weather and streaming them here just because he worked at WKYC and still has that connection and love for the area.
Yeah, every time he has an opportunity to go there, then he highlights different things. So I looked back on some YouTube and I saw that, and I saw where the other day, I don't know. Do you get very much involved in sports or covering sports any? Or
I don't. Yeah. I'm pretty much general assignment, and then the sports team does their thing.
They do their thing. Mm-hmm. Well, the Kelsey brothers, I guess they grew up in Cleveland Heights, I think.
Yes.
And that story came up again when Kansas City was playing Cleveland the other night. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of watching that game. I kind of watch Kansas City not as much as anybody anymore, just because I like their quarterback, and I do like Kelsey, but also it's just got a lot more interest. So do you know if anybody still lives there that's related to them? Their mother and dad, I don't even know if they live there, but I guess
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I don't. I heard, and this could be part of the rumor mill, but I did hear that Taylor Swift at one point came to the Cleveland area and ate at some local restaurants because she was visiting the area with Travis. Yeah. But again, I've heard that word of mouth.
Yeah.
So
well, I figure that anywhere she goes or anything that happens,
people talk. Yeah, it's big news.
Big news. Mm-hmm. So, what kind of news are you covering now? Just events or activities that are happening that come up? I know you're probably going back to Cleveland here pretty soon.
Yes, I am, over the weekend. I cover just a different thing every day. I cover a lot of crime, following up on, this murder happened, there's been a lot of car break-ins, and so we'll talk to police and get insight on what they're seeing in terms of trends. And then other times it's local government stuff. So a really big story right now overall is just the development of downtown Cleveland and what it looks like to try to attract more tourists. And then Brown Stadium, the lease for Brown Stadium is up in 2028. And so the owners of the Browns want to build a new domed stadium about 15 minutes, 20 minutes outside of downtown. And so there's this tension where some people think that's a really cool idea. Other people are bummed because they grew up going to Browns games downtown and they love it. And then how is that going to impact local restaurants and businesses that benefit from that traffic?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff there.
Yeah, so there's tons of follow-up stories within that story that we've been covering because people really care about it.
Now, what about the baseball? Is it got a new? I mean, I'm not sure what the stadium is for the baseball.
It's Progressive Field.
Okay.
And the Cleveland Guardians were really good this season.
Yeah,
and
they were right at the end there.
Made it to the playoffs, which was really exciting. And so I know that they've done some development. The baseball field is right next to the basketball stadium where the Cavaliers play. And so there's a lot of activity over there as well.
Yeah. Well, I know I won't keep you much longer. I thought this was about, but I did, part of what we talk about is finding your happy place, and sometimes that can be a location or maybe a state of mind, or it may be something you think about. And at your age, it probably varies from time to time. But what are your thoughts when you think about finding your happy place? What are you can talk about both. I mean, it doesn't have to be one. Just curious what you think about when you hear that.
Yeah. I think in terms of finding my happy place, something I've really been working on in Cleveland is, yes, I want to work really hard at my job, but also when I'm done with work, I really want to be done with work and be present. And so I think I try pretty hard to make time to be intentional with the friends that I've made. And so I'm happiest when I'm with those people that I love. And then also I work to get outside a lot and try out new coffee shops and go on walks and recreational parks, and those are my happy places that I feel like, okay, I'm unplugged, I'm calming down and relaxing from work and enjoying myself.
Well, when I look at some videos there, I've got to get back to the music and singing, but that's something you might, I don't know how that happens and how it works into it, but I thought I was just kind of blown away with that, and that's why I kind of included that on that video. I saw you kind of smile when it popped up there because it's a little different, but I was going to say, well, I was going to say something about Billie Eilish at that time, but just the fact that it had, and we did talk about it. But that's kind of, I think it's something you have to think about. I mean, you've got a lot of talent, and there are other things that you can do. And of course, Cleveland, is rock and roll.
Rock and roll city, yeah.
So you got a lot of things going there. Do you travel any either to the East Coast of New York or any of the other places out there, or do you stay pretty well in Cleveland? I know you said you're going back, and I guess you're going to be working over Christmas, right?
Yes.
So
I've gone to D.C. to visit a friend there. I drove up to Toronto with a friend because it's only a 4-hour drive. So I'm getting out a little bit and exploring the area. I haven't been to New York since I moved to Cleveland.
Yeah.
But I stay in Cleveland a good bit.
Well, maybe you can get out there around the Today Show or something.
It'd be fun to be a part of the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that happens sometimes. I don't know. We'll see. But no, I appreciate you coming by, and again, it gives a little more of a younger perspective, and sometimes I get that from grandkids and others, but I wanted to talk with somebody professionally, and you can see that some of the things I've talked about with people like Craig O'Neill or Dave Woodman is because they're professional, was in their voice, and I know I've seen this so much more, and again, I'm at an age it's not as big a deal, but there are people that they have good stories to tell, but they're not able to tell them. I mean, they're getting to a point where they're really isolating themselves, and what we do is we try to do something that's a little more motivational and get out and do things, and I think the things that we're hitting at here is to not to stay home, but go out and do and see, and a lot of things to see and do. So I think I hear voices.
Yeah.
So finally they got here. So I appreciate your time, and I'll let you. We'll just wrap it up at that, and I'll get this together, and you can see a video at some point.
Well, awesome. Thank you for having me. It's fun to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's really kind of a neat thing. I mean, particularly, when you've seen somebody really pretty young, and then later on you see them again, and later on they're out there, and I see it in my grandkids too. It's a totally different world then, and we'll be getting together with them over the Christmas holidays. Sophie's in, but Cooper and Samia, I think, coming in Sunday. So
okay, fun.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Today, but I'm starting fresh tomorrow. I was doing so well, avoiding your spell on the way to over you. And then that song played, the same one you showed me last May, and I caved in. I was thinking about the way things used to be. I may have lost my calm, been a little less strong, but now I'm learning. It might take some time to say with truth that I am really over you. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think I'm done and then realize, and even though I still can't see what the future holds for me, here's one thing I know: tomorrow I'm letting but I never knew I cared this much. I'm starting to find that this uphill climb is gonna take some time to end. 'Cause you come to my mind every time I pass that restaurant sign, and I think back to the nights that you sat for hours listening. I know I'm still not calm, and I need to be strong, but I'm not done learning. It might take some time to say with truth that I am really over you. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think I'm done and then relapse. And even though I still can't see what the future holds for me, here's one thing I know: tomorrow I'm letting go. I'm letting go. And I know it's wrong to want so bad to hold on, but I'll give myself grace and think about you one more time today. I'll do better tomorrow.
Finding Your Happy Place podcast. Fighting Parkinson's with a passion.